It is almost time. As of recording this, we are so incredibly close to Secret of the Mimic's release date, and now I think it's time to get my final predictions out before we get the last Carnival news. Now, before we get into anything, I just want to preface this with a big thank you to the people who've watched me for the last few months. I never expected to hit 1,000 subscribers this fast, and honestly, it just feels really great. I'm glad I've been able to put out ideas that I've had and had people enjoy them enough to watch and to comment and to just appreciate. So I sincerely thank you all for that. Okay, with that out of the way, I just want to briefly touch on the new information that Steel Wool has been teasing us. We got our last bit of MCM footage, which showed off the Mycelium Men, which are a set of toys that seemingly use the Mimic program to copy voices and then play them back. We see one of these toys in the trailer, and we see one of the actual mascot costumes for the Mycelium Men as well. And we know they existed far back into the 70s thanks to the Mimic having one of their costumes appear. And we got our last teaser for Mimic Monday, which has a poster of the Mailbot, which isn't really any new information, but it's a nice little conclusion to all the teasers we've been getting. On top of that, several big YouTubers got sent boxes from Steel Wool, and they had a few bits of interesting promo material, including posters of Jackie and the tiger costume in a basement, as well as a Spring Bonnie bobblehead, which I'll get into later. Okay, now to get into my big predictions. So the game's almost out, and I've been doing a lot of thinking about what I expect to be in this game, and so I thought the best way to compile all my predictions is with a good old-fashioned bingo sheet. Alright, for starters, we have my first prediction: Edwin appears. That's pretty self-explanatory, and we already have very good reason to believe he'll show up either physically or more likely in voice recordings. He'll definitely factor into the plot given his role in the story, so I'm very much expecting to see him show up in some form. Next prediction is Tales game confirmation. The book debate has been raging on for a very long time, and I think we're all excited to see it finally end. This game will be the game that finally settles that. Either the game will explain everything and how it connects into Tales, likely fitting into Edwin's PTSD that he has in the storyteller, or the game will establish that Tales just isn't canon. I'd prefer the first option, but I will fully accept the second option if it is what comes to pass. Next up, we have the 70s Vanny mask appearing. Now, for those confused, my very first theory video was speculating that the double vision puzzle that we find in Help 1 and 2 was originally meant to connect to a real-world Vanny mask that existed in the 70s. Not the AR mask that we have in the modern day, but more just an old mask that looks like Vanny's face and has special lenses that let you see through the double vision. I think that this mask and similar masks might have been made by Murray's Costume Manor, and we will see them appear in the game. I also speculate that we're going to get a Fredbear's ending. Fredbear's Family Diner is heavily connected to Secret of the Mimic, both with several posters showing up, as well as the Mixus machine being found underneath Freddy Fazbear's Pizzaplex, which is most likely the modern rebuilding of Fredbear's Family Diner. Given the Mixus machine will end up beneath that pizzeria, I wouldn't be shocked if the game will also end up taking us from the Costume Manor and into Fredbear's Family Diner so we can see it properly for the first time. Next, we have Freddy and Friends suits appearing. In another one of my videos, I theorized that the Mimic had been responsible for the delay of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza opening. I believe that originally, Freddy's was meant to open in the 70s or in the very early 80s before 1983, and featured mascot costumes inspired by the Freddy and Friends cartoons, and the Mimic ended up causing this delay by going haywire in the factory and causing the suits to be lost. I believe that near the end of the game, we're going to encounter the classic suits, and there'll be some kind of mini-boss or whatever. My next prediction is that there will be a suit hiding mechanic. In the Tales epilogues, it's established that hiding inside costumes is a very viable way to avoid the Mimic. Two of the protagonists hide inside of costumes, and this tricks the Mimic as it doesn't recognize them as people. We have a bunch of empty costumes throughout this game, and at one point in one of the screenshots that we see the Mimic in the elephant costume with dozens of other costumes on either side. I think that potentially we'll be able to hide inside some of these suits as a way of getting around the Mimic, as it won't be able to recognize us when we're hiding. This next prediction is one that many other people have already shared, and it's that our protagonist will lose a hand. We've had a lot of hand imagery for the promo material of this game, and it's getting to a point where it sounds like our character is definitely going to get a hand lost. We had posters in the PAX demo, posters revealed on Mimic Monday, and just the existence of a nurse character implies that we're going to have some kind of injury and we're going to need to get it treated. This will likely come in the form of either our hand being seriously injured or just outright lost. Next, we have the factory burning down. The Mimic's association with fire has been teased at for a long time. In the very first epilogue, it was established as having a burnt body, and that was never elaborated on in the books, leaving us to just speculate that it was in a fire. Help Wanted 2 then reiterated this fire imagery by having several fire-themed levels, and one of the MCM tapes even ends with the real burning up. I think it's very likely that the factory is going to set fire near the end, and this will account for the Mimic's burnt body. And after this, I think we're going to be getting the 70s Fredbear and Glitch Trap designs. Now, ever since Security Breach, we've been getting teases that Glitch Trap was in fact a real suit, having posters that are based on this design. On top of that, the Fredbear's posters in Security Breach have the same kind of bear design that we see on the 70s Freddy cutout in Ruin, and it seems that pretty much every 70s design of a character is supposed to be a big mascot costume. I think it's very likely that we're going to be seeing the real Glitch Trap suit as well as a similarly designed Fredbear suit, and that these will be major characters that we'll encounter in the game. Immediately following up that Glitch Trap prediction, I think we might also see the Help Wanted Spring Bonnie. Now, this guy was supposed to be in Help Wanted, but was cut and replaced with Glitch Trap, and we only recently discovered that he has his full model still in the files of the older builds. Now, we've been waiting for a proper official look at Spring Bonnie for a very long time, and the bobblehead that was sent to some YouTubers actually uses that original Spring Bonnie design. We see that this isn't the Glitch Trap look, as it has green eyes, and I think that this might be a hint that we'll see the original Spring Bonnie showing up at some point. And on that last Fredbear's related note, I think there's a very fair chance that either Henry or Afton will make some kind of appearance. I doubt that they're going to physically appear, but I would not be surprised if we get an audio recording or a note that either name drops them or is from them. We are at a point in the timeline where both of them exist, and I would be shocked if they don't somehow factor into the story, even in a minor way. Alright, going back to Tales-related predictions, I think we will be able to see the Mimic Model 2s appearing. Currently, the game sets it up like there's only one Mimic that we're dealing with, but with characters like Jackie and Music Maestro, it's clear that other animatronics are running the Mimic 1 program and being controlled remotely. If the Mimic 1 code is already being used in so many different areas, I think it's a very fair bet that the Mimic Model 2s that were mentioned in the Tales epilogues already exist. Heck, for all we know, the Mimic that we see in the trailers isn't even the original, and that is one of the Model 2s that's chasing us. And my next little prediction is that Mr. Helpful is evil. Now, Mr. Helpful seems to just be a fun little assistant AI that appears on our data diver and has a physical bust in the lobby. But if we know anything about the Mimic, it's that it really likes dressing up as Helpy to trick people. Given that Mr. Helpful has both a digital form as well as a voice, I think it's very likely that the Mimic will at some point be pretending to be him in order to trick us into doing something that helps it, just like in Ruin and in Help Wanted 2. Now, this next prediction is a little more out there, but I think it's possible that this game will show us a version of Princess Quest. This isn't really based on a whole lot, but Princess Quest is very heavily tied to the Mimic, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of older version of it, maybe not about the princess, but instead about the old man. Okay, next prediction, Carnival news. I think we're going to see Fall Fest. Fall Fest has been teased since Curse of Dreadbear, and its importance was reiterated in Help Wanted 2 with the Fall Fest 1970 poster. Given that Steelwool's also shown us the Big Top showroom, I wouldn't be shocked if Fall Fest also plays a very major role in this game. I wouldn't even be surprised if the Fall Fest grounds were located near Murray's Costume Manor, given the fire imagery in Help Wanted 2 connects it to Fall Fest and not just the Mimic as a whole. This is another kind of out there prediction, but I think the Ruin Scooper might get explained. I'm not sure how, I'm not sure why, I'm not even sure what this thing is supposed to really be in the story, but I would not be surprised if somehow the game attempts to explain this weird giant claw that comes down and kills the Mimic in one of the endings. Just a little prediction, not really based on anything. Alright, next, I think it's possible that the protagonist worked at Murray's Costume Manor. Among the various items that YouTubers were sent by Steelwool, there was a notice of termination that they were all sent. I think it's possible that this notice of termination in-universe is meant for our character. I think that's possible we worked at Murray's Costume Manor once upon a time, got fired, joined Fazbear Entertainment, and are now being sent back into the manor once more. My next prediction is that the Lace Factory is going to be in this game. Now, for those who don't know, in Tales, Edwin's original factory wasn't this giant costume manor, it was this small lace factory that he bought out, and it was just kind of full of old machines and costumes. The factory ended up going to Fazbear Entertainment when Edwin first ran away, and I think it's possible that instead of actually containing the Mimic and getting it out of the factory, what happened is that Murray's Costume Manor was built around the lace factory, the original Mimic being still trapped within it. I think this game might do something similar to Security Breach, with revealing an older location hidden within this much bigger one, and the end of the game will have us enter the lace factory and encounter the original Mimic to stop it once and for all. Now after that, I think we might also get an explanation for the Tangle. The Tangle, the blob, whatever you want to call it. This thing has been a complete and utter mystery in the story. We have no idea what it is. It's appeared literally twice, but it's super important to the point of being the cause of the entire Pizzaplex collapsing and a clear enemy of the Mimic. There have been a lot of answers thrown out to attempt to explain it, like it being the remains of the people the Mimic killed in the epilogues, or it being the FNaF AR animatronics, or it being from the storyteller, but none of these answers really cohesively explain every little aspect of it. But I think this game has a chance to do that. Currently, the story is acting like the Tangle just doesn't really exist, but we know that it does, and I think it's only a matter of time before it shows one of its faces again. Now, this is some ending speculation, but I think it's possible this game will end with a flash forward. The original tagline for this game talked about understanding the past in order to understand the future, and I think the game might take this very literally. Currently, the modern story ends with the cliffhanger of Cassie falling back down into the depths and being found by, supposedly, Roxanne, and with the Mimic still being active. I think it's possible that after we finish Secret of the Mimic's past events, we will bring the story full circle by doing a flash forward that shows that what happens after the elevator ending and then leads into whatever comes next. And speaking of Roxanne, I think we might get a 70s Roxanne Wolf in this game. We've already had 70s versions of a bunch of Security Breaches characters, from the staff bots to Monty, and I think it's possible that we'll get a version of Roxanne as well. Maybe not specifically Roxanne Wolf, but perhaps the Twisted Wolf character instead. And speaking of costumes and characters, I think we'll be seeing more of the Tails costumes show up. There are a bunch of different characters that the books brought up, and a few of them, like the Mushroom Man, the Jester, and Sharpay the Poodle, have already appeared. So I think we might see other characters like the Yellow Dog or the Purple Lion character that also appeared in the Mimic. Now next, I think that the Hug vacuum might finally get to appear. Edwin's original vacuum cleaner, the Hug, was teased to us back in 5 Laps at Freddy's when we first learned about Murray-Co. Now we have the Cleanovac, which seems to be an upgraded version, but I think we'll also get to see the original version of this vacuum cleaner robot appearing. I think this might tie into my earlier prediction about us entering Edwin's old lace factory. We might go in there and end up finding Edwin's old robots, which includes, of course, the Hug vacuum. And now for my big final prediction. This one is rampant speculation with almost nothing behind it, but I think we will see the physical Mixus entity. We know Mixus plays a huge role in this story. We had it teased to us in Help Wanted 2 update, and it is very clearly important to the Mimic story. But one thing that's always been confusing about Mixus is the rabbit character that manifests from it in the digital world. What's up with that? Why does it exist? Why is it a rabbit character? With Mixus being so old, I think it's possible that this is actually some remnant of an older AI. I think it's possible that, rather than being a digital character, the rabbit AI was once meant to be used in real machines. I think it might have acted as some kind of physical antivirus, going around inside physical robots to counter the Mimic's control and contain it. It's possible it either took the form of a rabbit animatronic, or the last character it infected was a rabbit, before the Mixus machine was either shut down or taken away. And yeah, those are my final predictions for this game. I am beyond excited for this game. I've been excited for it ever since we learned that there was some kind of Carnival game in ruin. And honestly, I just want to say again, thank you for helping me get this far. This was honestly a very big achievement for me, and I'm happy I ended up reaching it when I did. I might try recording gameplay of Secret of the Mimic and posting it, or try streaming it. I might not. My computer kind of sucks, so I don't know if I'll be able to do either of those things, but I will play it. And I will try to post my thoughts. And I will try to keep making theory videos. And honestly, that's because I was able to get the support that I did. Because I was able to have people say, hey, I like these random ideas that Carnival Stick is posting. So, yeah, thank you. Carnival news tomorrow.